Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and today we're throwing an amp, sub, and wiring in a 2010 Ford Escape. We're going to show you how to wire everything up, get everything to the factory system. This audio installation channel is sponsored by NVX and Sonic Electronics. Get 10% off all speakers, amplifiers, wiring kits, and more with coupon code PBAI at NVX. Also get 5% off all car audio components at Sonic Electronics with coupon code ProvoBeast. First of all, a 12-inch kicker subwoofer. We're using a Stinger 4-gauge amplifier wiring kit and a 300-watt kicker amp. So let's go ahead and head to the car and show you how to start running the wires. Alright, so here we are under the hood. Now you notice the driver side has the battery, and what we're going to be doing is running our power wire through an inline fuse, and then looking down up underneath here, you're going to see that little grommet. Fortunately, we do have that grommet open, and so we can use that grommet as the area where we will pass through. Now, of course, if you have a clutch, you may have to drill or find another location through the factory wiring to run that wire through. So we're going to go ahead and run our power wire through the firewall into the car. Alright, here we are underneath the driver's side of the dash. Now you'll notice this is the other side of that grommet area. Go ahead and pop this on out. It's going to expose that grommet spot. Poke a little hole in that so we can run that 4-gauge through the firewall, and that'll lead up to by the battery. Okay, so we went ahead and poked a hole in that grommet, as you see there. Ran the wire on through. Put our inline fuse there. Then we are all set up to put our positive there on the stud of the battery. We'll make sure we get that all cleaned up from the corrosion. Alright, so here's our wire. It came through the firewall. Now, of course, it goes up underneath. We can pull our carpet back so we can begin tucking this up underneath. Now, there's two ways to run this wiring. Either you can force it up underneath, kind of like that, tuck it all the way back, or you can actually pop these panels off here. You can use a panel tool or your fingers and pop those on off. Now, before you start really yanking on all these panels here, of course, as you see, there may be some clips with your panel itself. So go ahead and pop these out. That'll give you access to run this wire up underneath the panels, or use the tuck method and tuck that wire, working your way to the cargo area of the truck. Alright, so we went ahead and tucked that wire on down this channel. As you see, we removed those clips. We've tucked. Now, once you get to the B-pillar area, you may have to disconnect your lower C-belt bolt, and to do that, you'll need a T-bit, and this is a T50, and you can loosen that and pull that out of the way, just so you're able to run that wire up underneath. We pulled this back panel off as well. There's just a clip here, and another one of these clips that you slip on out as well. Now, just mind you, these little panel tools are great tools to use. You can use pliers as well. We've continued to run that. We tucked that up underneath. And finally, we're at this point, and as you can see, that wire, we just tucked it right down underneath this little slot. We're going to mount our amplifier kind of in this back pocket area. Since our kicker 300-watt amp will fit perfectly there, we'll just put two small holes here to run wiring up through. But at this point, our power wire is done. Next, we need to run our ground wire, our RCAs to our factory radio, and a remote turn-on wire. Okay, so at this point, what we've done, this is just all held on with clips. You can give that a little tug. Clip here at the top, clip here as well, clip here at the bottom, and that'll give you enough little wiggle room. What we did is put a little hole there so we can run our power wire through. Now, additionally, you're going to see back up in there, right there is the factory ground, so you can actually pull that bolt out. Make sure you clean the paint if it needs it, and you can use that location as your grounding location for your amplifier. Okay, so we went ahead and ran our ground wire and our power wire through. We put spade ends on the end just because that's what our amp accepts. We ran our speaker wire, a remote turn-on wire, and our RCAs. We ran our speaker wire out from down underneath. Our RCAs and remote turn-on wire, we've begun to run, and we need to continue those all the way up to our factory radio. And then for our ground, right there. As you can see, it's kind of blurry back there, but that's where our ground is, to the factory grounding location. Just clean up the paint there. After that's all done, you're basically ready to reassemble the back catch area. We're going to go ahead and mount our amp to this little pocket, get our terminals and everything hooked up on the amp, and then finish up by running our RCAs and a remote turn-on wire to the factory radio. Okay, at this time the amplifier is all mounted, everything's good to go, super nice and clean. Now let's run our remote turn-on wire and our RCAs to this area. We're going to have our speaker wire come out, and then the rest of the wire is going to go up the passenger side up to the radio area. Alright, so we've been running our RCAs and remote turn-on wire, of course just like the power wire, but here on the passenger side we've just been tucking up underneath. Now you may have to undo that bolt if you want to get up and around and totally conceal the wire. Keep working your way up, and we're going to go to the fuse box and the factory radio for signal and an ignition source. Okay, at this point we just kept tucking that wire up. We're going to go right underneath the carpet up by the passenger area. Now we've popped our fuse panel off, and to tap into it safely we're using what we call an ADA circuit. Now an ADA circuit allows you to fuse both your additional circuit that you're adding and allows you to keep the original fuse to the component that you're tapping into. This in no way puts an extra load on the factory fuse. It is actually tapping into the power directly from the battery. It's pretty cool. So that will just pop right back into that location, and we're done with our remote turn-on wire. We'll run our RCAs up to back behind the radio to tap into our speaker output with our line out converter. Fuse you want to go ahead and tap into is this fuse here, and this location is right next to the 20 amp fuse. Guy right there. It's a 10 amp factory fuse. It's only on when the switch is on, so we tapped into that using our ADA circuit, and everything's nice and fused and safe, so we're done here. Let's go ahead and pop the factory radio out and tap into the speakers. Alright, so we went ahead and ran our RCA cable just back behind, by fishing your hand up back behind the glove box, because we're going to go right here to the factory radio, which is just located behind this actual faceplate. To do so, this top portion pops on out, just held on with clips. Same with the bottom portion, exposing screws all the way around the radio. So now I'm just using a panel tool, just kind of relieve these clips. Just like so. You don't have to pull it completely out, but it just gives you enough space to get these two bolts out of the way. And then same thing down below here at the bottom. We have to just pop this on out. And it's kind of I'm pulling outwards. Just to relieve these clips. It's kind of an awkward spot. That gets low enough where you'll see the two screws at the very bottom. It's easiest just to remove these harnesses. Like so. That's out of the way. Now remove these 4 screws. Okay, so these are all 7mm, all 4, and just kind of giving the radio tug, it'll just kind of work its way on free. As you can see, it'll come as one big piece. And our goal is to actually get back behind this radio to tap into the factory wiring. We're going to be using some T-taps. So you may have to pull the gear shifter back just a hair to allow this to slide on out far enough where we can get into that factory wiring. Okay, so we got the radio out, pull the shifter back just a little bit. You can actually pop this cover off and push the button, make sure the parking brake's on. But you can pull this back while the car is off. This lays back far enough where you can disconnect your main harness, pull back your shielding here, and we will tap into our factory wiring, but we're going to use our line out converter and tap into it. Okay, we've tapped into the factory wiring using the the male ends of the T-taps here. The reason we chose T-taps because it's pretty uninvasive. We don't necessarily have to cut any wiring, but we're just tapping into the signal. Some of those don't like using this method. You're welcome to strip the insulation back and solder onto those wires. That is totally up to you. So at this point, we're going to grab our line out converter. Now we use the PAC SNI15, and we're going to connect into those wires that we've tapped into. Okay, so we went ahead and tapped into that. Now the way we did so, solid white is your left front positive, white with a brown stripe is your left front negative, white with a purple stripe is your right front positive, and white with the orange stripe is your right front negative. So go ahead and tap into those wires with the T-taps using a line out converter. Now if you have a ground loop noise, you can actually ground these brown ones out. You can actually go right to that support beam in the back. If you don't have that that ground loop sound in your system, then you won't need those brown wires. Connect your RCAs into those inputs and you're good to go. We can reassemble the dash. Okay, everything's all put back together. Go ahead and throw the key in. Make sure your negative is back on the battery. Yep. Got a lot of bass. We'll do a little bit of tuning here, but essentially that is it. There we are. Super clean install. If you have any questions about this install, just go and post a comment below. Thanks guys for watching the video. We appreciate the support. Go ahead and hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and we will see you in the next video.